Hi everyone. Today is October 6th, meeting number 3 of Konveyor community meeting. Welcome everyone. We abide by Konveyor's code of conduct, which boils down to be nice to one another. This meeting will be recorded and available in the YouTube for later viewing. Do we have let me share the agenda again so that you can all add your name to the agenda. I'm audible, right? It's so quiet, so I just want to make sure that I am audible.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. I just put the agenda in, so if you can add your name to the attendees, that would be awesome. Um, do we have any newcomers who wants to say hi?
Looks like we have the usual suspects in here.
Awesome. I can directly jump into the open discussion since we don't have any other topics. First up is from Mehant. I don't see him in the call. Can anyone speak to it?
Not really. I don't know what this thing is.
Um, so I'm just gonna read it out. I think I have very less background on it. And also like share the screen so folks know where it is. So Mehant asked a question in the conveyor group that he there is this internship called GSOC, Google Summer of Code, and there is like Linux Foundation mentorship that happens every season. And Mehant asked that if we could submit a proposal in those areas with respect to the conveyor project. So I think that is the gist of it, or that is my understanding. Um, Folks have any thoughts on that? Please feel free to like express them.
So I think one of the aspects is to understand whether it is per project or per community. If it is a community thing, we can all pull together the different projects and whatever is the requirements, right? Whether it's putting together rough ideas or something, and then together submit it. Or if it is, I don't know whether we want to go any more further with like projects like Tackle or MotoCube or something like that. It would be good to put it as a one together one. So like one proposal. I think that's the point Mehant is coming from.
Thanks for clarifying that, Ashok. That definitely gives some background idea. So my understanding that even if it's like a project, like a big project like Conveyor, Kubernetes, whatsoever, like you submit proposals, like which area the intern is gonna work on, and there can be any projects within the community. So we would be submitting if we decide to do it, whenever we decide to do it. I think it'll be done as like Conveyor community, but the proposal can be like for any little thing that we want to improve on, or like we want someone to come and work on it. So
Sure. Yeah, I think the deadlines are coming in the next few weeks or so, and that's when he got interested and he was inquiring about it. So we just need someone to coordinate across the convey community if we are interested in it, and we can go further.
and I'm gonna open this up to other maintainers in the call, like to get their inputs and see like if we are ready for it. Like do um personally, like we are, my opinion, it's not influenced by anyone. We are still onboarding. It's not completed yet, and the KubeCon is coming up. So like it would be nice that if we could target the next season, but that's just like totally me. I'm like I want to hear others' opinion on this as well.
Yeah, just for one more context, right? Like, I think last year we tried GSOC. and I think we did not get through. Um, and yeah, if we feel together, it's better to target next year or something. That's totally fine too.
Ashok, do you have the proposal that was submitted last year? Like, if you have it handy, or like if you could pop it in later in the agenda, like if you have it at all. So just to give an idea for others, like what was the proposal, like how we can improve it.
Sure, I'll try to find, but I'm not sure that I will have access. James would have access, so I will get that and share the link.
Perfect. And um, I'm not hearing anything from anyone. So uh,
I can't say I have an opinion on this. I'm not familiar with the program, so if you Sabitha get the feeling you're basically taking care of the whole organization of things. If you have the feeling that we should be waiting, I fully support your approach to this.
all right. Ashok, do you already have an idea or something? Like, I can take a quick look, like, if you already have an idea and what is the process like, and like if it's doable or not, I can do like some kind of feasibility on that.
Uh, yeah, so what I recommend is I will talk to Mahant, and probably I will tell him to do some due diligence and then sync up with you on any material he has, and also I'll give him inputs on what we can do, at least from MotoCube side on the thoughts, and then you can take a call on whether to go this year or not. And of course, I will also support whatever decision you make.
Sounds good. It feels like huge responsibility on one person. So like I'm again gonna ask all the maintainers input on this, but I will help take point on this one. Um, thank you, Ashok. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? And thank you so much to Mahant for bringing this up. Like these little things definitely help the project propel. And like we could also get new contributors coming into the project and contributing and like be a part of it. So like these are all great initiatives. So thanks for bringing that uh, bringing that up to the meeting. And since we don't have any further questions, I'm gonna open up the floor to Ramon.
Thanks, Abhitha. So yeah, this is something that I've been thinking about for some days already, and I've been taking a look at the six that we put together, and everything seems to be very focused on the technical aspects of Konveyor. But my understanding of this is that yeah, we have a lot of tools that are very interesting for the end user, but without knowledge, we are nothing. Basically, we have a set of tools that are able to somehow enforce or help with adopting best practices. But these best practices, this knowledge, this experience with previous migration has to come from somewhere. Right now, for example, we have the concept of the assessments, and assessments provide certain insight and are able to detect risks. But those risks and this insight come from actual experiences from the field. We have the rules on the analysis, but these rules in the end are basically migration guides that have been coded into rules for them to be used by the rules engine. So these are pretty technical things that require someone wanting to contribute to contribute knowledge to Konveyor, to have knowledge about the technical aspects, the interfaces, the format of these technical assets that our tooling leverages. What I've been thinking is that maybe we should put together yet another SIG that is related to knowledge management. And the idea behind that is to allow experienced architects, experienced consultants, experienced developers out there that have been involved in this type of migrations, that maybe are part of the development teams or engineering teams for some of the target platforms that we are looking forward to migrate to. Allow these people to share their knowledge in a way that doesn't require any technical knowledge about the platform itself. So being able to define a series of maybe standards to write information that can then be leveraged by the engineering teams and be coded into rules, assessments, or whatever. We did something similar, and I'm going to share a link. We kind of kickstarted something similar with this repository, the Tackle Pathfinder knowledge base. And the rationale behind that was that we wanted to enhance the insight that the assessment tool was providing. Pathfinder was the name of the assessment module within Tackle. So what we wanted to do is allow architects, developers out there to contribute that knowledge in natural language without having to write any rules or anything technical. Just have a way to explain things that should be done in the context of migration projects. So I was thinking that it would be nice to have a SIG that is able to nurture a knowledge base that can then be leveraged by our engineering teams and transformed into assets that the tool uses to propagate that knowledge. So I hope I explained myself well. How do you guys feel about this? Any thoughts?
So, Raman, is a proposal to have a centralized repository for this? Because each tool might have its own way of own kind of formats and stuff, right? Are we looking at a centralization of it and with a uh, fixed format?
I don't know. What I'm trying to say with this is have a team that nurtures this thing, that is able to come up. Maybe it's a centralized format, maybe it's a one repository, a series of repositories. It's just about having someone that puts some thought into this thing in order to have a standardized way of sharing information that can then be leveraged by Konveyor. There won't be different tools. This would be an array of integrated tools within this unified experience. That's what we were discussing and trying to move forward to. So it's just about finding a way to, share information and lower the barrier for those who want to share their experience. So not requiring someone to code a rule for the analysis module or code an extension for Move to Cube or anything like that in order for them to share something that might be useful.
Yeah, the exact point you just mentioned, right? Like I can see that people who might not be well versed with MotoCube, but they have a lot of knowledge domain, and I see this might be a good way to capture the knowledge, and somebody who is the expert in MotoCube then can write a transformer out of it, for example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I don't know the mechanics of it or how it will work, but I can see it resonating with MotoCube's thoughts too.
Yeah, it's again, I kind of had some. I ran the idea across several colleagues in the consulting organization here in Red Hat. Some of them said, "Yeah, I'm all in to get there and try to start figuring out stuff." It's just a matter of not having a singular vision of how Red Hat does things. It's just putting together a series of standards to share information and allow as many organizations as possible to share their experience and their viewpoint on how this migration could be done, and in a way that can then be leveraged by the engineers. The thing is that, for example, in the past with rules in Windup, our engineering team is very good at coding rules and implementing rules, but they don't necessarily know the details of the domain in which these rules are going to be used. So in the past, we've been relying in other teams to contribute those rules, but then they have to learn the language and the syntax of the rules development, which makes it a little bit clunky. So maybe putting together something that lowers the barrier, and then engineers can come up, can pick it up and develop the rules based on that knowledge could be interesting.
Just one thought. I was just wondering, like, should be just limited to the knowledge on the different kinds of extension mechanisms different tools provide, or even take it further to even provide feedback on how the tool can be improved, and that can later become a pipeline for both extensions and also the tool.
I don't know if something like that could be part. honestly, I don't have an opinion. I'm not saying it shouldn't be the way. What I'm trying to say is this is not a way of us not doing what is called product discovery, which is trying to get in touch with the field and try to understand what their needs are. It's not a lazy way of saying, hey guys, just write it up and tell us what you need and we don't have to do anything. It's not me not trying to do my job.
Sure.
It's more a generic approach to share stuff like how do I migrate from, let's say, EAP 7 to EAP 8, or to WebSphere Classic to Open Liberty, or let's say in the future the guys from VMware or Pivotal, I don't even know if Pivotal exists anymore, but they say, yeah, I want to migrate. What about sharing the knowledge about migrating from Spring framework to Spring Boot? It's just having a common format that then can be used by the engineers to do whatever. I'm just focusing on migration paths, but the things could be more than that on the assessment space, especially if we want to add, and this is something that we've been discussing in the past, adding some AI to the assessment, making it a little bit smarter. I guess that intelligence has to come from knowledge. So we need to seed that knowledge somehow.
Sure, Aman.
Yeah, this is David. I think when you're talking about it, the part that I'm struggling with is like, what are the parameters for this SIG? Like, because it sounds like it's a little bit direction oriented. It's a little bit interested in the direction of the project as a whole. And there's a lot of conversation about engineers being able to see rules and like taking those and implementing those. So the part that I'm struggling with is like, where is the boundary line of what this SIG is talking about? If that makes sense.
For example, if you take a look at the link that I shared, and I think, I don't know if you saw it on chat, we had this Tackle Pathfinder knowledge base thing, and it was basically generic documentation. It just had some questions in it, and the idea was to expand the questionnaire that we had in Pathfinder. The way the assessment module works, you have a questionnaire, you provide answers to those questions, and the tool is able to find out risks based on the answers that you gave to those questions. But one thing we thought we were lacking was why a risk is identified as a risk. What is the rationale behind something being a risk? And what could be a suitable mitigation strategy for that risk? If you think about it, providing that type of information is not related in any way with the platform itself, with Tackle or the assessment module. This is generic information about good practices or good migration practices or concerns to be taken into account when migrating applications to the cloud. So it's about finding a series of themes that could be important. And I'm starting to arrange the work on that group. But the way I imagine it is finding interesting themes that should be tackled, and then finding ways to standardize the way information is shared across these different themes. And why do I insist on the standardization? Because if the information format is standardized somehow, then it's easier for an engineer to pick it up and transform it into a rule or an assessment or whatever. So I guess the information format should be intentional and somehow aligned with what the engineers are designing and building for, basically to make your lives easier. So there has to be some connection in there, but enough connection for it to be useful for you, but enough disconnect for the user to not have to know everything about how Konveyor is built. Did I answer your question somehow?
I mean, I'm still fuzzy on this, like the specifics, but I think I am getting the picture. So
I can tell you,
it's not just building a new knowledge base for all of Tackle. It's also having these discussions with those that are using the platform about migrations that they have done and trying to distill from that things that are activities for engineers to engage in.
For example, something like that. So I can give you an example. So right now we have different migration paths with the analysis module. We have an analysis path which is containerization, which basically enforces the 12-factor application principles for an application. So that's what we use to determine the suitability for an application for containerization. For example, one thing that we've been discussing for quite some time is maybe we should have rules around Kubernetes specifics. So what happens if my application was developed back in the day using Netflix OSS? What happens if I come from other container platform and I am somehow coupled with the APIs of that container platform? I mean, someone that is knowledgeable enough about the rules could just start implementing rules right away, just tackling that space. But that would require someone to be familiar with that. But if we had someone contributing, yeah, this is what you need to take into account when you're migrating to Kubernetes from, let's say, from Cloud Foundry or from Docker Swarm or from Mesosphere. These are the key things that should be taken into account. This is the way you can work around this thing. This is how you would solve this thing. This is the type of knowledge that usually consulting organizations put together in tons of documentation that get delivered to customers, that could be somehow distilled down into guidelines that can then be leveraged to code that knowledge into rules or whatever you're going to call them.
Yeah, I guess when with what you just said, one of the things I think would be really cool, even if you didn't go so far as to put it into some engineer digestible way, just putting together all the resources of like, these are the things you should be concerned about with a migration from Cloud Foundry to this thing. Just having all of those there, such that an engineer, when thinking about it, can go find them without having to do the self-discovery. I think that would be hugely beneficial all by itself.
But we don't even have that. So that's
Yeah.
what I'm trying. I'm not trying to build the ocean at once, but I'm just thinking about a SIG that works as content curator for this, and try to find what would be useful, what wouldn't, try to find what could be the different scenarios that we would want to tackle on this migration space. And maybe we find out a scenario for which we don't have tooling just yet. And that kickstarts a conversation about, so as Ashok was bringing the concept of product discovery, this is not so much about product discovery, but it could lead into some product discovery activities.
Yeah, I think if you were to go forward and establish the SIG, I think the big thing would be to clearly define the goals for the SIG.
Yes.
And so when some of these conversations go more into tackle direction itself, that you just have a clear boundary for when, like, okay, well, this needs to go to a planning SIG or a release planning meeting, or needs to go into an enhancement, that kind of thing. So yeah, I like the idea. I think that, the more resources, there's a lot as far as migrations go that I personally don't know, and so being able to have a resource of other people are contributing to with a lot of that knowledge, I think would be useful.
Okay. Any other questions, feedback, guys? Does it sound like interesting? Is it just nonsense? How do you feel about the idea? I know it's adding yet another SIG, but I think it will be welcoming for people that are not necessarily technical in the tool development space, but are very well versed on this application migration space.
I really like the idea. This is Chris Newland. I think it's an opportunity for a lot of the people in the field who have a lot of experience with migrations, but maybe don't know how to get that information to the larger community. And I think if we can get the word out to the right people, I think it could work really well. We hear more and more about migrations, especially in the field. And I think Tackle has been well received from a lot of the clients I've worked with, but I think there's obviously opportunities for us to expand on some of these rules and these ideas. And I think you're right. It's hard sometimes, especially, I mean, I'm just coming off from being a consultant. It's sometimes hard for me to make contributions technically where I could be like, oh, hey, we had this particular case come up with a WebLogic application, and I think it could fit well within, you know, some kind of parameter of what we're trying to achieve with certain analysis. So no, I like it. I do agree with David. I think it's, you know, obviously anytime you're trying to create a new SIG, there's, you just have to be careful. You know, you want to make sure that you have that foundation there and make sure that it kind of can keep on moving forward without, you know, one single person being the person keeping it moving. But I do like the idea, and, you know, keep me posted, and I can definitely help you with some of it for sure.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I guess you coming from consulting, and I come from consulting as well. I've been involved in many projects in we might have done stuff and we have documented a lot of stuff, but then back in the day, and shame on me, I wasn't good implementing, for example, wind-up rules. So all that knowledge was somehow thrown away into a document and left to rot, rather than transformed into rules, because the entry barrier, it's kind of high if you need to learn the syntax and everything. I'm not saying it's rocket science, but it takes time, and I understand that, especially for people involved in consulting organizations, they are usually pretty focused on availability. So yeah, I know that. So it's hard for them to have the time to just share this stuff and learn yet another new technology to share this. So if we are able to lower the barrier and somehow give them some visibility from a community perspective, just because they are sharing that time of knowledge, I think it could be pretty attractive. But it's going to take a lot of time from many people out there. I'm doubtful about the traction about this thing, because we didn't have that much success with the Tackle Pathfinder knowledge base, but it's an actual need. We need that knowledge. So if we could foster this knowledge sharing somehow with the SIG, it would be great.
So I think one way, if we could get some more people from that side of the industry, because I know, yeah, I'm just thinking from like an IBM, Red Hat, Kyndryl, Accenture. I mean, we all have some form of documentation where we're keeping track of this, and the complexity here is going to be like, how do we redact some of this information? Because obviously a lot of it can be very sensitive information. But I'm thinking of one of the big migrations I did last year. And Ramon, actually, this was the one that we were just talking about over the last few days. There's a lot of interesting information in that documentation that maybe if I can get redacted would be beneficial to the team here, especially around what are some challenges when we were moving into Kubernetes that we had to face. You know, what were some permission issues? What were some configuration issues? Things like that.
Exactly.
I think that kind of information would be really, really valuable. And so let me think about that a little bit. Let me talk to my organization and see how might I be able to share some of that information without sensitive information getting out. And I think that might be a really good first step. You know, bring some consultants from different companies in here to kind of present on some of the cases that they've, basically case studies is I think what we're looking for. We really need some case studies of what things have looked like in the wild, and let me run with that. I can work with you on that and, you know, come up with some ideas.
Yeah, I guess it's just a matter of giving shape to this whole thing, is seeding it a little bit and see how much traction does it get. I mean, we have IBM folks in here. GBS is enormous out there. It's a huge consulting firm. They must have some knowledge. It's just a matter of saying, yeah, guys, we're sharing all this stuff. This is the common platform. It's as easy as doing it this, and this way. So why don't we collaborate together and leverage this for our own migration projects? So yeah, I mean, that's the way I see it, but I think I am overselling this thing. So yeah, any more feedback, IBMers, anything on your side? Well, Ashok already shared some stuff, but I don't know if we have anyone from any other consulting organization, GSIs, joining today. I don't think so. Okay, so how shall we proceed with this? Aside from Chris and myself getting in touch and brainstorming, I know there are other architects in our organization that will be interested as well, but I don't want to make this thing monographic from Red Hat, so it would be great if we could get in touch with other consultants and architects out there.
Raman, from MotoCube side, I don't know whether we will be able to contribute knowledge as such, but I can see this idea being useful for capturing the transformations MotoCube does from the field and then converting it to the tool. So similar to your Pathfinder repository, at least we can have a similar one for MotoCube. And yes, as part of that direction, we can represent in the SIG.
Okay. Okay, so that's all I had. So as follow-up actions, Savitha, I don't know if we could discuss this in the next meeting and see if we progress in any way. How would you suggest to move on with this?
That sounds wonderful. I was gonna say, like, yes, let's talk about this in another meeting. If you want to send a gist to the community, like in case if we want inputs, like you said, from other partners, or like if we know people, we can reach out to them to say, like, what do you think about it? And in the next meeting, we can say, like, we are going to talk more about in the next meeting, and this is what all we discussed in the previous meeting, and we can have it as a topic, and then like give everyone some time.
Okay.
That sounds perfect.
Okay, cool.
Thanks for bringing this up, Ramon. I'm all in for knowledge sharing. So I just want to say, like, +1 to the idea.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other topics that they want to bring up?
Savita, just man is on the call right now. He's joined, and he will get back to you after consolidating the dates and the next steps required for LFX and GSOC.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Mahant and Ashok. I look forward to it. And please feel free to reach out to me in like Slack or whatever ways that works. And I'd be happy to work with you all. All right, everyone. That's all I have. Thanks for coming to today's meeting. If you have anything, please add to the next meeting agenda. If you have a big topic, if you have something that you want immediate attention, please post it in our Konveyor Slack channel. We promote asynchronous collaboration as well, so you don't have to wait for 2 weeks for the next meeting. That's it for me. I will see you all in a couple of weeks. Good. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.